She stood on the sidewalk with her phone out, snapping pictures of my 6-year-old twins playing peacefully with chalk on our driveway. When I rushed outside, she turned and said in a cold, clipped tone, "It's HOA documentation. Sidewalk chalk counts as graffiti. Photos of my kids? Taken without my permission? That's more than HOA business. That's creepy, potentially dangerous, illegal." So I did what any mother would do. I took her to court, and trust me, the courtroom showdown was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. When we moved to Willow Creek, nestled in a quiet suburb, it felt like an ideal haven. Spacious lots, friendly neighbors, and tree-lined streets all whispered peace and safety. My husband, Raza, and I set down roots quickly, and soon our adorable twins, Emma and Eli, were settled in, mastering their first chalk drawings and greeting neighbors with shy waves. The HOA was hardly ever on our radar until we met Karen. She didn't hold an elected HOA role, but carried a clipboard like a badge of honor. She monitored Halloween decorations, measured grass blades, and even judged kids' lemonade stands for supposedly violating block aesthetic. Despite the annoyance, I stayed quiet. Our children had growing up to focus on, homework to finish, and tree houses to build. But that all changed one late afternoon. I was inside making Raza a cup of tea when I looked out and froze. There she was, Karen, across the street, phone raised, camera lens fixed on Emma drawing a rainbow, and Eli scribbling his name. Click, click, snap. I ran outside, fueled by instant fury. "Stop, what are you doing?" She lowered her phone slowly, gaze cold, documenting violations. Sidewalk chalk is technically unauthorized. She didn't blink when I pointed out, "That's my private property. Our children are playing, not protesting traffic." She shrugged, unimpressed. "You can appeal to the board, but rules are rules." That moment cracked something open inside me. This didn't feel like enforcement, it felt invasive. Karen's dismissal was the catalyst. I began reaching out, emails to the HOA, calls I left unanswered. So I started knocking on neighbor doors. Mrs. Siddiqui, 2 houses down. She followed my 14-year-old son home once because his sneakers were muddy. Said stains offend the curb. Other neighbors shared stories too, photos posted in private HOA groups, warnings about kids playing tag, birthday parties, shoes, flower colors. This wasn't boundary protection. This was obsession. Raza supported me. He helped contact other parents, compile stories, documented the chalk drawings, and logged HOA announcements. I recognized this wasn't just about us. This was about protecting everyone's privacy, dignity, and peace. So I called a lawyer. Our lawyer, Aisha, a specialized civil rights attorney, reviewed the case in detail. She pointed out photos were taken on private property. Neither homeowner had given consent. Posting anyone's photos, especially minors, in a group of 300-plus people opens legal liability. The HOA had been given written warnings, yet did nothing. We drafted 2 main legal instruments. 1, civil harassment complaint against Karen. 2, restraining order to prevent her from approaching our property again or sharing any images. Meanwhile, neighborhood parents came forward. 3 other families joined our effort that turned into a group complaint against Karen and the HOA. By the day of the hearing, news had spread. A local reporter stood outside, whispering about mom suing HOA secretary over kid photos. On entering the courtroom, I felt equal parts nervous and determined. Karen arrived in a crisp beige pantsuit, binder in hand, confidence radiating, until the judge asked her, "Did you photograph these children without parental consent on private property?" She tried to dodge. They were in public view. HOA documentation. Nothing personal. But then my lawyer, Aisha, introduced screenshots from the HOA Facebook group, Emma, Eli, and other kids' faces, posted with captions mocking sidewalk art and childhood play. I held my breath as the judge carefully reviewed the evidence. Plaintiff, do you consent to having your children's images used in HOA communications? I shook my head, tears in my eyes. No, the judge looked at Karen. What's your explanation for broadcasting these children's faces and names in a public community group? Karen stuttered. I thought they were public domain, standard procedure. The judge named it for what it was: non-criminal privacy violation, possibly harassment, irresponsible posting of minors' images. Karen looked deflated. The judge ruled in our favor. The final order included immediate deletion of all images of children from online or printed HOA records, a formal written apology from Karen to our family and all affected families, a $2,000 civil fine payable by Karen personally, a community policy mandate banning future photography of children without explicit consent, a temporary external review of HOA board practices. The crowd outside the courthouse erupted. Our supporters cheered. We hugged other parents who had testified. The sense of vindication was overwhelming. At home that evening, Emma and Eli resumed their chalk art, drawing a large, safe house with smiling faces and bright rainbows. I photographed it not for documentation, but to remember that this win was for them. Karen? She quietly resigned from HOA participation. Last I heard, she walks her dog wearing sunglasses, avoiding neighbors. Our story sparked change. At the next HOA general meeting, the board adopted a clear photography policy: no images of children or residents without written signed consent. They introduced privacy training sessions, and for the first time, the HOA board included at-large community members, including parents, to avoid over-control by one person. Neighbors started hosting chalk drawing contests, block parties, and sidewalk art festivals. We even launched a private photo wall, only with explicit consent, moderated by parents, to share community moments without invasion. The message was clear: community thrives on trust, not surveillance. This journey taught me that boundaries matter. Raza, and I realized the legal world isn't just for corporate boardrooms. It's for everyday families when privacy is threatened. I also saw how fear can silence people until someone says enough. The other parents felt similarly powerless until we formed a group. That strength in numbers changed everything. Karen wasn't just an individual problem. She represented what happens when rules become excuses for intimidation. Public accountability matters. So, does voting in board members who respect boundaries? Now, every time I see Emma's chalk rocket ships or Eli's spaceship, I smile, not because of the drawings, but because of what they represent: freedom. If you're watching this and something similar happened to you, 1. Document everything: photos of interactions, notes, timestamps. 2. Talk to neighbors. If they've experienced the same, solidarity gives power. 3. Consult legal professionals. Privacy laws vary, but most states limit photographing minors without consent. 4. Use official channels first, but persist: HOA, emails, board meetings, appeals. 5. Join or run for HOA leadership. Control comes from within. 6. Promote transparent policies. Ask for written boundaries around enforcement behavior. This wasn't just a story about chalk or an overzealous neighbor. It's about standing up when your fundamental rights are compromised. If you believe in privacy, fairness, and protecting childhood innocence, join this conversation. White heavy checkmark hit like if you think parental consent matters. White heavy checkmark subscribe for more real-life justice stories. White heavy checkmark comment with your own HOA or neighbor drama. Maybe it'll be featured next.